Today I'm interviewing a handsome fellow who was able to go from being friend-zoned to friend-zoning girls. He used to suffer with a full face of acne and excruciating stomach pain. But after changing his diet and lifestyle, he was able to transform his looks and health. Make sure to keep listening if you are curious about his story, advice, and opinions as someone who successfully became a better person. So welcome to my interview, Luke.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be on.
Yeah, a random question. Can I ask you what's your ethnicity?
I am mostly white. I'm 75% like white, mostly Irish, and then I am 25% Chinese. My grandma. Yeah.
So can you speak Chinese?
No, I can't. I grew up in America, so my grandma
Okay.
can.
Okay, interesting. I think you have a cool phenotype.
I appreciate it.
Fuck. Did you know? Yeah, I need to be careful when it comes to like complimenting people because people will like talk shit about
Oh, yeah, I saw that. The glaze stuff
me.
on your story, yeah.
Yeah, so you eat a meat-based diet right now. I want to know
Mhm.
what was the main trigger that made you want to go on this kind of uncommon diet.
Trigger like in terms of food or like life, like experiences or symptoms that I was experiencing.
Yeah, so I think people usually come across some major challenge in their life
Oh.
so that they need to really like seek some solutions and they
Okay,
eventually find this kind of lifestyle. So I
I
want
see what
to
you're saying.
know what
Yeah.
was the storyline for you.
So it started probably in, I'm gonna say my freshman year of high school. My skin was really bad. It was probably the worst it's ever been. And I did like a lot of jujitsu and wrestling and that sort of stuff. So people would rub on my face, and it would often bleed because I'd have like so much acne. And I was like, okay, previously I was like, it's normal, whatever. But I was like, I have to fix this. I have to find something because it started actually affecting like my quality of life, and I was getting more interested in girls, so I wanted to not have it. I went down like the normal like dermatologist route, like tretinoin. I even took antibiotics for a while, which really messed me up, um, stomach wise. So I got off of them, and that after that, I was still using topicals, but I wanted to go down more of a natural route. So I saw influencers on my feed at the time, like Santzcruzmedicinals, and I was like, okay, so diet can help me. So I kind of went basic, like, okay, less seed oils, no refined sugar, right? But I was still eating like a traditional, like healthy diet. I was prioritizing meat. I wasn't worried about like eating red meat or anything like that, but it was like a mixed diet, all cooked, lots of vegetables, lots of fruit. And it got a bit better, but the change was so slow. And I was also still looking for ways to speed it up. So I started eating a lot of like fermented sauerkraut and
Mm.
even like prioritizing, like, okay, I need to get fiber to feed my gut bacteria, right? To feed the good bacteria. So I really got into that. And I did that. I was kind of down that for about a year. I cut out dairy at some point along that as well because I realized that that was a trigger for me. I still don't eat it now. Um, I don't even do well with raw dairy still, like raw milk. That just doesn't work for me. Um, so
Okay, do you mind if I stop you real quick?
yeah, am
Okay,
I rambling
perfect.
too much?
Yeah, let me ask. I mean, it's fine, it's fine. That has to do with my question, but I want to ask you more details.
Yeah, yeah. I'm starting to go on like a long story.
So obviously, in the beginning, you were going to dermatologists. How was
Yeah.
the treatments working for you? Like, did they just not work at all?
Okay. So the tretinoin, I didn't notice much of a difference. The antibiotics did clear up my skin. My skin actually got way better, very like pretty quick. They worked, but I immediately also had side effects. I was having a lot of like gas, stomach. like kind of cramps type of feeling, like from like indigestion, like bloating type of things. And eventually, after being on them for way too long, like 5 months of antibiotics, which is way too long to be on antibiotics, of course. And it's crazy that the dermatologist ever put me on that long. But eventually I realized that I was like, I have to get off these. And once I did, I still had the side effect. My skin stayed all right for a couple months after that, maybe like 2 months, but then immediately it started getting worse again and progressively just going back to how it was. And the side effects didn't go away. So I would have rather never taken them in the first place. Yeah, it left me worse off in the end. And it could have been worse if I stayed on
Mm-hmm.
them. Yeah, so I wasn't a fan of the dermatologist.
You mentioned a kind of skincare treatment that start with
Yeah.
T. Is that like a kind of pill or something?
Oh, yeah, I think I said tretinoin. It's the idea is it's kind of like the topical form of Accutane, and I hear people having success with it, but I wouldn't. I got off all that um, a while back. It has side effects.
Is that a
It,
kind of
it,
cream?
yeah, it's like a topical cream, and you like rub it into your face. It makes your face more sensitive to the sun, though. Like you get sunburnt a lot easier. It thins your skin as well. So and it messes up the barrier. So I'm not a fan of it.
Mm. I guess what's illogical about this kind of topical treatment is the fact that skin is all over your body, but when you do that, you are only targeting one segment. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
if you change your diet, you are like targeting all your skin.
Yeah, I agree because I also had acne in other places at the time, and my skin's still not perfect. Like I definitely still get pimples, but it's way better. But I just think it takes time. I didn't even cut out things like vegetables or anything like that, which is now common in the like quote unquote primal way of eating, right? Um, until about 5 months ago. So my skin isn't perfect still, but I haven't seen improvements like I am now ever on any sort of way of eating until now. Yeah.
Awesome. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I can't hear you sometimes.
Sorry about that. My service has been bad the last couple of days. There was a big storm where I lived, and some things went down for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll try my best.
Thank you.
Before you came across Santa Cruz, were you eating a healthy diet at all?
No. Growing up, I ate pretty healthy, but starting around like quarantine, I ate a lot of like ultra processed foods. I remember here, I can tell you an example of what I'd eat in a day. Sophomore year, before I started making changes. So I would go to school and be hungry, and I'd get their school breakfast, and it would normally be like a Pop Tart and pasteurized orange juice. Then I'd start eating my lunch, which would be probably some sort of grain based snack like crackers, chips, goldfish. Um, Lunchtime, I'd probably just have like a sandwich. It's regular bread, lunch meat, whatever. A few other random assortments of like hyper processed foods, ultra processed foods. And then getting home, I'd have a decent dinner. At least um, it would be like a mixed type of dinner, but it would be like whole foods and cooked in like good oils and whatnot. My mom always cooked pretty good. She makes good food.
How mainstream do you think Santa Cruz is?
Well, he's gotten so mainstream now. Yeah. I mean, just about everyone I know knows about him. He's like the
Mm.
mainstream, like healthy type of eating, like mixed diet, but don't eat these certain ingredients. I mean, I think most people would be better off listening to his advice than eating the way they eat, but it's not necessarily like the epitome of health. I know some people who really think like he's like top notch. If you eat that way, that's like the optimal human diet. But that's where I, you know, disagree.
But obviously, like you said, a lot of people are aware of him, but I'm sure
Yeah.
not a lot of people are actually like eating better or trying to say no to junk food. How do you think most people are? How do you think most people think about it?
I think most people would agree with what he's saying. I mean, like his message is pretty agreeable. Uh, a lot of people I know like think his videos are kind of funny, whatever, right? I mean, it's tailored to like the like modern day social media on like TikTok and Instagram and all that. But I mean, most people would agree with him. He's pretty well received. He's not controversial. Controversial. Like his ideas are agreeable.
Yeah, I guess people agree with his ideas, but when it comes
Yeah.
to actually following his advice, is another topic.
Oh yeah, because I don't think most people are following it. Even even his advice. Yeah.
I like how you say that. Even.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder how healthcare professionals are going to think about him because obviously most of them are not really trying to tell people to eat less junk food and stuff like that. They are probably also eating junk food. So
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder
Right.
what.
Yeah. The healthcare workers normally like they would advise like less junk food, but it's always the in moderation, right? Sort of approach.
Yeah, they are probably going to think Santa Cruz is too extreme. But what do you think about that? Like, what kind of role do you think junk food plays? Do you think it's just you always shouldn't eat it, or it's not a big deal to eat it sometimes?
Well, realistically, let's say you ate bad once a month. I don't think it necessarily would have like the biggest impact over on your overall health, right? Because it's just such a small percentage. But me personally, I don't like to do it at all. I mean, I think ideally you shouldn't, and I think if you're eating the right way, like for me, I don't really crave like that type of food. I look forward to what I eat, so I don't need to like it's not on my mind.
Nice, nice. Pretty good point. Yeah, I guess for me personally, because I eat a meat-based diet, and yeah, I think I can agree with you. Like your diet itself is already very delicious, so you don't really feel the need to eat junk food
Yeah,
compared to previously when I was still eating lean meat, vegetables, rice, things that are less delicious. At that time, I would crave junk food a lot more.
yeah, I agree. Uh, like fatty cuts of meat, it is like the best food in the world taste wise, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I wonder. So I'm also like you. I don't think it's the end of the world to eat junk food. So I wonder when will be my next time to eat junk food. I'm not. I don't mind that possibility, but I haven't really go for it yet.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I haven't eaten any sort of like junk food in a really long time, actually. Just because even before I completely went on a like a raw carnivore type of diet, I already was limiting my food a lot. And to me, I couldn't see myself doing it until I've completely resolved my sort of like gut issues, which takes a long time. But I've seen so much improvement eating this way. And like it's been so extreme. And during winter right now, like for me, winter, this would normally be the time my skin's the worst. Yet it's the best it's been in months.
I didn't really hear the first part. Do you mind saying again?
Oh yeah, I was saying I haven't eaten any sort of junk food in a long time, even before I went raw carnivore. But
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Nice. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, but I guess ever since you stumbled across Santa Cruz, you started to not really eat junk food, right?
yeah. I mean, I still would eat foods that
Okay.
I now wouldn't eat ever again, just because not only do I think they're bad for you, but they don't taste super great, like broccoli. But
Oh,
I wasn't eating any sort of hyper processed food. Yeah,
basically, you are saying that broccoli is junk food for you now, which is understandable.
yeah, and it's not doesn't even
So
taste good.
really quick, yeah, you're right. You're right. Really quickly, uh, broccoli versus junk food, which will you be eating?
Okay, this is hard, and you know what? Actually, it's crazy because I thought about this today. Um, it depends, right? Because I'd say if something's so ultra processed, I'd rather eat the broccoli, but I guess it depends. I want to think of an example real quick. Like, I what's it's hard. I guess most of the time it'd be the broccoli.
You know, my thoughts on this is that I think broccoli is probably less healthy because it tastes worse. That's a sign.
Yeah,
That's
that's
my take.
yeah. You know what? If I factor in like taste, I might just have to pick the junk food because I yeah.
Okay, great. Um, I want to dive deeper into your story. So, when you first came across Santa Cruz, what about his message kind of triggered you, made you feel more curious?
Well, I kind of came to a point where I no longer trusted the traditional dermatology because I was experiencing these bad side effects and it felt like a non permanent solution. So I was like, when I heard the message of changing your lifestyle, eating differently, that kind of resonated with me. I was like, okay, this could work. And
Mm.
I think he did make some good points. I couldn't exactly say what it was, but it definitely, the message resonated with me. And I was like, okay, I should try this approach and I'll get healthier in the process. At the time I wrestled, like high school wrestling. So I figured this would help me athletically as well.
Before you came across him, was it hard to come across alternative messages?
Um, yeah, like I'd say for the longest time, I was never super into health up until that point. So I would just get the general like mainstream video. I remember I actually watched some videos about, and at the time I thought like something like the carnivore diet was crazy, um, and unhealthy. I was like, you got to have variety, right? Like I was just in that normal way of thinking, because that's all I had seen. Yeah, I would never come across any alternate opinions.
Sounds like you weren't really interested whatsoever. So you just are not going to come across that field, I guess.
Yeah, that's something like you really have to search for. It's not really pushed. It's more niche.
That's true. That's true. I want to know more about how strong your motivation was. So, take myself for example. The reason I went on a meat-based diet was because of my eye floaters. So
Mm,
basically, my vision would have a lot of floating things, which I still have now. But at the time, I just worried a lot that I'll go blind in the future. So I had a strong fear, and
yeah.
I when I went to eye doctors, they only they only told me to get my eyes checked regularly. They couldn't really fix my eye issues. So I had a strong urge to try to fix my eye health. I really wanted to do something to prevent going blind, basically. And that's how I eventually came across a carnivore diet. So I want to know how much your motivation was.
Okay. I actually, this kind of is funny. I remember around a few months before I even got into like any sort of dieting things. I remember 2022 was when like there was that first wave of the like looks maxing trend. So I was more motivated than ever to like clear my skin. So I was like, okay, like that would keep me motivated. I'd see something, and even though I wanted to eat it, I'd be like, okay, but I need to have this clear skin. And yeah, that's what motivated me. It's funny.
Sounds like maybe you think that if you clear your skin, your life will become much better. Was that your motivation? Like you start
Yeah,
to get into black pill?
yeah, yeah. I did think so, right? Because you look better with clear skin, right? And I was starting to get more focused on my looks at the time. Like before that, I didn't really ever think about my looks, and I growing up, I was pretty like actually as a kid, like I see the photos of myself and I look like really good as a kid, like great skin. You can see like my facial development looks great too. But then I went through like the phase of such bad eating during quarantine, and which was right around like middle school for me. So a lot of big developmental phase, and my skin quality got a lot worse. My face got way puffier. I can't, yeah. So I kind of felt like I had to at that point I kind of became more self-aware about like how I looked and realized that it is more important, and it caused me to kind of start wanting to get back on track with that.
It's interesting you mentioned facial development because I guess after you get into this kind of diet, the way you look at the world will change. You become more attentive, I guess. Because
Yeah,
people are usually not going to be looking at others' facial development when they are looking at others or themselves in the past.
yeah,
Yeah, so I like how
yeah,
you mentioned that.
yeah. Not consciously. It's like all subconscious, but yeah, you definitely become more attentive when you get into those sort of topics.
That's a great point. You are right. Definitely, they still notice that instinctively. Nice. Okay, I'll talk about facial development later. But I guess you kind of mentioned this. Were you having some failure in terms of dating?
No, at the time, I actually had a girlfriend. So, um, no, I wasn't. I okay. I was with that girl for a long time, and I wouldn't say I was failing because I already was dating her, but there was a big difference. I could just tell the difference in attraction based on the way she acted around me and whatnot once I looked better. So it wasn't there is definitely a difference. And I will say um I wasn't necessarily doing super great. It was just afterwards, definitely was a difference in terms of attention.
Brutal. So are you still dating the same girl?
Yeah, recently started
Oh,
again.
nice. Oh, interesting, interesting.
Yeah, there's
Nice.
a little gap.
Okay, let's see. So sounds like your main motivation to improve was for your own self. You just wanted to look better for you.
Yeah, I guess yeah. I wanted to look better for everyone else, so then that it would and turn out better for me, right? So yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Great. So you came across Santa Cruz. You started to eat a more whole food based balanced diet, and you mentioned you cut out vegetables 5 months ago. So
yeah.
what prompted you to do this?
Okay, this is fun. Sorry, I'm just moving my light. So, it was probably around September. I had a random video on my feed with GOTUS in it. And in the video, I it was like one of his old videos where he's talking, and I was like, this guy sounds kind of interesting. So I saw someone mention his name in the comments. I go to his channel, and I hear him hating on vegetables, and I was like, okay, wait, this makes sense, because he was talking about like things like anti-nutrients, toxic, right? And I was like, wait, I've listened to people like Paul Saladino before, and other people who have mentioned, like, specifically like carnivore people who have mentioned plant toxins. And I was like, okay, so like it sort of clicked a little bit, and I was like, I think this might be something that I can apply. Like, maybe I shouldn't be eating these things. I never really even, for a long time, I hadn't really believed that they were that nutritionally beneficial. The only thing about them that I still did believe for a long time was the fiber, right? But that wasn't working for me. So then when I was hearing these people saying, no, go the opposite way, I was like, okay, I should try that.
Awesome, awesome. That's pretty interesting. So let me make sure. You already knew people were talking shit about vegetables prior to you coming across Cultist. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So what about him that kind of just made like click you, I guess?
I guess so. In the past, when I'd hear people like even Santa Cruz like mention, yeah, vegetables have some defense chemicals. Same thing with Paul Saladino, but they were always so, they would always say in a very like agreeable way. They'd be like, yeah, like for me, like Paul Saladino would be like, for me, cutting out vegetables was beneficial, but for most people, it should be fine. Santa Cruz was like, yeah, most people should be fine with it. A lot of people would find it still beneficial in their diet because they would be fine with it. So I was always kind of, I never really thought of it as something that was that big of a deal. It was kind of in the back of my mind. But hearing Godis talk about it, like it brought it back into the forefront. And the way he was so extreme with it, I was like, okay, maybe it's more important than I thought. And then I started listening to other people like this guy's pretty funny, but I do think he makes a lot of good points. Eddie Goki. And I was like, okay, maybe this is something that I should try. Like that would be really beneficial. So I cut them out.
That's pretty interesting. This has something to do with persuasion. I would imagine his Cultist approach will not work for a lot of people because he's so like he's bashing too hard.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of mainstream people will just immediately feel attacked and don't want to accept his message. Yeah, but I think his kind of approach can be especially effective to certain people, I guess, because he's like very direct.
Yeah. And I agree. He's like a little belligerent, and he doesn't explain things much at all. He doesn't go in depth at all. And I don't agree with everything he says either, but yeah, I think the way he does things would definitely push a lot of people away who are kind of new to it. But I think I was already kind of deep enough in the space, and it was like I was at that tipping point. I was like right on the verge, and watching a couple Godis videos kind of pushed me over, and now I'm going the other way.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I guess different people require different ways to be persuaded. Yeah,
Yeah.
there are a lot of factors, but let me move on. So, right before you cut out vegetables, what did your diet look like?
So it was pretty much like a Whole Foods. I didn't eat any dairy. I ate grains, but only in the form of sourdough bread that my mom made. Um, some vegetables, some fruit, and it was still like very like meat heavy. I was like prioritizing things like red meat, but I didn't eat any sort of like organs or anything like that either. I just never had gone up my way to get them. So, um, It was still like relatively standard.
Okay, but it was like already whole food based.
Yeah.
Nice, interesting. What sort of health improvements did you see from going on that kind of more balanced whole food diet approach?
Well, it's kind of similar to what I'm seeing now, but it was just to less of an extent. I My skin was better compared to not eating better at all, but I still had frequent acne, like um, pretty big breakouts, like deep pimples, and I was still having stomach issues. I will say though, like my overall athleticism definitely got better. Even like keeping like I do like Muay Thai, and my cardio got a lot better. And I don't go on runs or anything. Like I don't train cardio. I just kind of do it for fun to move a little bit, um, in what I would view as a healthy manner. And yeah, it got my cardio got way better. So I still think it benefited me, but it wasn't all the way there yet.
Great, pretty interesting. Yeah, there are a lot of details to get into. I'll just keep going. I'll keep getting into all the details. Let me see. Yeah, so when you were growing up, what did you think about red meat?
Oh, I always thought it was fine because I was lucky, and though my parents like they fed me a balanced diet, they always fed me a lot of meat. So I always would. I actually grew up eating a good amount of. I'd say my mom cooked like ground beef and steak more than chicken and whatnot. I did have a lot of noodles growing up, but it was always with ground beef, like meat sauce. My mom would make steak for me and like my friends, and she would cut it up into little cubes and give me like a toothpick steak bites. It was good, like medium rare. I always loved medium rare steak. So I think that's why, like as a kid, before I really started eating bad, I didn't have gut issues yet, and I was still getting the nutrients I needed. It was and I could cope with things like eating some vegetables and whatnot, and a little bit of like dessert in moderation. It was only once I got really bad that it kind of forced me into this sort of approach to heal.
Nice. Yeah, I think kids they look super healthy. Like if you take a look at their skin texture and their hair texture, stuff like obviously their mental health just very supreme when you
Yeah,
like observe them.
definitely. It's like yeah, they because most kids, well, less nowadays, but they're starting off life eating their natural diet, just their mom's breast milk. So they're, it takes time to see the sort of like physical and mental degradation that you see on the average diet.
Yeah, but it's pretty fascinating because obviously a lot of these healthy looking children they come from parents that don't eat a healthy diet, but those children can still look pretty great. So it makes you
Yeah.
wonder how even better they are going to look if the parents are living healthily.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But obviously, some children they are already having issues early on, like some yeah maybe controversial, but birth defects. I think it definitely has to do with parents' lifestyle and diet.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And I think like environment is an important part as well, especially with the birth defects. Um, I think you can get away with like certain like carcinogens and endocrine disruptors in your development and still develop well if you're eating so like a really good diet. Not that it's ideal, but I think those things really come into play when you have like a pregnant woman, right? And what she consumes, and also think obviously things like drugs, but not just something like smoking or drinking, but when women are on something like Accutane when they're pregnant, their baby can often be like extremely deformed.
Yeah, let me get into this topic real quick. So Last time I saw a video, and the creator went to a restaurant, and the restaurant was selling junk food, and this restaurant's theme is that the workers are all like people with birth defects, I guess. So I think like I just really want to say that I don't know, I think it's a little backwards. Like they are selling kind of the foods that gave them trouble to begin with.
Yeah, it's like ironic. They Yeah, but people are so disconnected from how much, because everyone just thinks it's genetics nowadays, and obviously genetics, there's factors, but your overall development, it's so much to do with lifestyle, and also the lifestyle of the. I think people misconstrue like genetics as with the lifestyle of your parents, for example, while you were in the womb and their parents before them.
Yeah, great message. Let me see if I can have you say something to these people. Let me see. Let me see. I want you to share some messages to people that are still not very aware of how diet and lifestyle can affect someone's development. So, yeah, let me see how I can ask this question. If I want you to say something to help people know more about how diet and lifestyle can affect someone's development, what are you going to say?
Okay. So it's so common now that you see like the mindset of it's all genetics. There's nothing you can do, right? And I think that's backwards. Even in like babies, growing to in the age of like 0 to 5 in development, the amount of vitamin A babies get like drastically changes not only how well they develop physically, but even mentally how smart they are, right? Um, a nutrient rich diet and what I believe to be the most nutrient rich diet of being like a raw carnivore. The flesh and fat, high fat muscle meat of animals, organs like liver, um, kidneys, brain, heart, whatever, right? Bone marrow. These are like the most nutrient dense foods on the in the world. They have so much fat soluble vitamins, water soluble vitamins, but especially the fat soluble vitamins. Vitamins like vitamin A, um, B vitamins as well. Just there's so many modern deficiencies. Other things like iron as well, right? In being like anemic or not having enough iron is so common throughout the world as well. Um, so you just think how much better people would turn out if they're getting the nutrients they need for their development.
I guess people will not accept that. You know, like, you're telling me to eat a raw meat diet for my kids.
Yeah, it's a little funny too because the same people do eat raw meat just in at certain restaurants, certain dishes, and then it's like flying right over their head. Another good point, real quick, about development when it comes to diet. You can see when people switch to eating during the agricultural revolution, like 10,000 years ago or so. Different times for different societies, right? But people's skulls shrunk and they got shorter on average. So I think that is just a good indicator right there, showing how diet can absolutely is important. I don't see how people can deny that.
I agree with you. Like, because if you deny this, you are basically saying that two, like the same person, if he only eats junk food for 5 years, and the same person who eats healthily for 5 years, if you deny that diet and lifestyle can affect development, you are basically saying that these two people are going to turn out the same 5 years later. But I think most people are going to agree that it's not going to be the case.
Yeah, or at least it's underplayed, right? Because they might be like, okay, one person will have a worse physique and slightly worse. They'll say like acne is genetics, but they'll still be like, okay, diet matters a little bit. If he's eating just junk food, his skin will look a little worse, and he's not gonna have as good of a physique, but everything else will be the same. Like, there's a disconnect.
Nice. I like this point. Great. Yeah, so I was talking about how you feel about eating meat growing up. Like I interviewed a couple people recently, and they all told me that when they were growing up, their parents didn't really tell them not to eat too much meat, which is pretty interesting to me because I would imagine it's more mainstream to believe that you shouldn't eat a lot of meat. Yeah, I still believe that. I just think for some reason my recent guests they all have a more different upbringing. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
agree.
good for you.
That's definitely like the more common way of thinking. But yeah, like as a kid, I was always like I was given like a bowl of steak and a toothpick, cut up into little cubes, the steak, and I was told to eat my steak to be strong, to get muscles. So
The
I would eat
fuck?
it, but it tasted good
Wow.
too. So yeah, I'd always eat it all.
Mm, wow. That's awesome. Yeah, for me, when I was growing up, I definitely believe that red meat will cause cancer. And it's just not a very common food for me. Like, you would think it's like a more high end, expensive food. Usually, when you eat meat at households, you are going to be eating chicken and pork. You don't really see like steak in a family's table for me.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I think it's like for most people here in Taiwan, people are not going to always be eating steak at home unless they go to a steakhouse sometimes, and they are going to think it's going to cause cancer. It's kind of like contradictory because people at the same time are going to think red meat causes cancer, but if you eat a lot of steak, if you are eating like a delicious looking steak, at the same time people will think you are rich. Yeah, so
yeah,
it's like
yeah. It's funny. It's like it's just that even though like there's so much propaganda that's meant to pull people away from that sort of food, I think intuitively everyone loves it. Everyone loves a good steak because it's just naturally what you love. It's it's just instinct, right? So, you think that a food like that, if it there wasn't much, obviously just because it's from an animal that makes it more expensive, and because it's perishable, but you think like with all the anti red meat messages, it'd get cheaper due to less people eating it. But that's never the case because even not that everyone follows that, but even then, I think people people like cheat on their view and eat it because they love it so much.
mm. Nice. I like that perspective. I think I was like that before. Like I used to think eating a lot of meat is bad, but sometimes I will still give in to my temptation to eating a lot of meat, and then I'll feel guilty afterwards, and I want to eat some vegetables. Yeah, poor me. Let's see. But like I guess when you were growing up, you did hear red meat causes cancer or eating red meat is bad for the planet, stuff like that, right? How did you
Yeah.
think about those?
So I was like I said, I was never super health conscious growing up, like as a kid. Um, or even like teenage years. So I didn't think about it too much, but I would hear you like, yeah, the planet things, um, how it's like, cows produce so much methane and CO2 that it's going to cause global warming, which is silly, um, especially relative to other things. But when they're farmed correctly, it's really a silly thing. Um, and I would hear the main thing. I wouldn't hear as much the carcinogen sort of argument that red meat's a carcinogen until more recent times. I know it's been a thing for a while, but I would hear a lot the whole, you know, saturated fat your cholesterol, you'll get a heart attack. I mean, that's what we were taught in school. That's what I was taught in all the way back in elementary school. I think I was just lucky that my parents fed me anyway, and I was never like, oh, I'm not gonna eat this, mom. I want to be healthy. I liked it, so I ate it.
Okay, that's pretty fascinating. Nice. Yeah, so you touch on the climate part, so I want you to share some messages. Oh, yeah. So you used to believe eating meat is bad. Is bad. Fuck. You used to believe eating meat is bad for the planet. What would you say is
I
the
did.
kind of information that changed the way you feel about this topic?
Well, I guess once I started learning more about diet, and I was, even though I still ate mixed, I was always still like very animal protein. Like it was always something I prioritized, and the people I'd listen to would touch upon the fact that when beef is raised regeneratively out on the pasture, grass fed, it has a lot of benefits to that ecosystem, right? When you see something like crops farmed, it's a monocrop agriculture, pesticides, everything is killed just so that one crop can grow, including the soil, because it completely depletes the soil of nutrients, right? You can't have one crop for miles. It just doesn't work. Versus having cows grazing on grass like that, it's good. It keeps the soil healthy. And another point I want to touch upon, a lot of people talk about how um, cows take up a lot of land that could be used to grow plants. But the reality is that when you say agricultural land, that doesn't mean flat plains that can grow plants. A lot of times these cows are on pastures that have rough terrain, or rocky, that are somewhat like mountainous. I don't know exactly a good way to put that, but they're not suitable for farming crops. So they're actually great for cows, and I think that's a better food to be farming in the first place. So
Nice. Okay. Also, so after you came across goatis, did you also just start to eat raw meat very quickly, or um, you just cut out vegetables first?
um, it was about at the same time. So I always ate like rare steaks and whatnot. I already knew that red meat particularly is pretty safe to eat raw, right? At the time, I didn't quite have the same ideas about eating meat raw, right? Um, but I also knew about water soluble vitamins and how, especially those vitamins, are heat sensitive. So the idea made sense to me that you lose some nutrients. And I remember I hadn't really tried it. I had cut out vegetables for maybe only a week, and I was running late to school, and I was like, I want to have some food. So I just grabbed some beef out my fridge and ate it on the way to school in my car raw. And I was like, oh, this tastes pretty good. I mean, it's not that far off. The only thing I don't like about it was that it was cold, but outside of that, it was great. So um, that's kind of when it clicked. I was like, I can just keep on doing this, and it's convenient.
Nice. Well, let me make sure what you were saying. Did you say that you were in a rush, so you just decided to eat a raw steak?
Yeah, I just took it with me.
But like, what did you plan to do in the beginning? You just wanted to eat that raw? I mean, you said you took it with you. Did you just want to eat that raw at that moment, or you plan to cook it somewhere
Uh,
afterwards?
so I guess like in the moment, I was like, I don't have any food, and I looked in my fridge and I saw it, and I was like, I'm just gonna take it. It was kind of spontaneous. Like I wasn't really. I guess normally I would just plan to cook it like a sear on each side, kind of blue rare, medium rare type of way to cook it. That's how I like my steaks. And still now sorry do cook some of my steaks. I like a steak with a little sear, but I always cook it like really blue rare now in the middle. But something about like I like it warm, right? So I don't necessarily think that it's a super big deal to cook things either, but I don't like it when I would never want to take like something like ground beef, which I prefer ground beef raw for sure. But if it is cooked, I would never want to have it like gray all the way through, tough, right? And it's not juicy anymore. Um, I cook ground beef like I would my steaks, kind of rare in the middle.
Yeah, I think most people will agree on that. Like when meat is like too overly cooked, it's like not delicious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so raw steak. So I guess like after that experience, you started to be afraid of eating raw meat that much, and you started to just eat it more.
Yeah, I guess
Mm.
before then I wasn't really afraid of it, but I just hadn't made the jump. I wasn't sure if I would like it or not. Um, but then when it tasted good, that was just like the sign. Like it also, I will say, it felt right. Like the difference between like some very cooked meat in your stomach and versus the raw counterpart is there's definitely a big difference, and that's one of my favorite things about it. If I eat a lot, I don't feel hardly anything in my stomach. I mean, it depends on the amount, but it digests way smoother, and it seems to digest quicker, which is ironic because my whole life I heard about how cooking helps with digestion, which I think only applies to things like vegetables full of anti-nutrients, which are partially destroyed in cooking, but not to meat.
Great, very fascinating. Nice. Yeah, you know what? I have heard a lot of people say their digestion feels better eating raw meat. For me personally, I didn't really notice that, but I guess I didn't pay enough attention. Yeah. Would you say the difference is like drastic, like some slightly cooked meat versus raw meat?
Um, Slightly cooked versus raw, I would say it's not super drastic. I'd say like if I have a blue rare steak versus a raw steak, I don't notice much of a difference. But I would notice like something. So my family also, when I grew up, would eat a good amount of pork. My mom would make like pork tenderloin and pork chops, and of course, because it's pork, which is just grocery store pork, which I still cook thoroughly because I believe like to eat something like chicken or pork, it has to be sourced very good for like raw consumption, right? Cooked all the way through, kind of tough. Yeah, something like that. Like that's where I really noticed the difference.
Mm-hmm. Nice, interesting. Let me see if I can ask you a question here. Uh, I think this kind of personal experience is pretty valuable. Yeah, you can kind of open people's eyes when you share that. When you eat raw meat, your digestion feels better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to have you try to talk with. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, let me say this. If someone is curious about your digestion eating raw meat, as a seasoned raw meat eater, what are you going to tell them?
I think it's the best digesting thing you could eat. Um, I think so many people are so used to being like bloated after meals, especially like because your average meal just has so many like grains and whatnot in it, legumes. it's a completely different experience. Complete satiation and but less fullness. You feel lighter is the way I describe it. You feel lighter and aware, right? So many people after they eat feel weighed down and lethargic. I don't think that's normal.
What if they say you're capping? They think that you are going to get like crazy diarrhea or shed out parasites.
Well, um I guess I can't prove anything to them absolutely in terms of like my own personal experience, but I I never had that issue. I think especially if you're eating red meat, you really don't have to worry about parasites. And luckily enough, that's the best, just about the best food possible, right? And you just have to source it from someone good. It's all about sourcing, really.
Yeah, maybe you can say, "What do you want me to do? Do you want me to live stream to you?"
Yeah. Like they can come to the back.
Awesome. Let me see. Okay, um, so right now I know you are eating I guess, kind of like a raw carnivore diet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Uh, I want you to go back to when you were still eating somewhat normally. When was that?
Okay, so it's hard. Your average person, that would be about maybe 2.5 years ago. But if I guess somewhat normally would be 5 months ago. I ate like a pretty normal diet. I was just strict. So compared to your average person, I was way stricter, but it was still like a quote unquote balanced diet. Cut out a few food groups that like dairy, but overall it was like pretty ordinary.
Interesting, interesting. Okay, okay. Mm-hmm. So far, after you went on your raw meat based diet from your whole food based balanced diet, um, what kind of changes have you noticed in your physical and mental health?
So okay, I'll start with mental health. I feel like I've become a lot less stressed. I have like a tendency to hyper focus on things. So like historically growing up, I would, if there was something good like that I was looking forward to, I'd think about it all the time. But if there was something bad, I'd also think about that all the time. So I'd be kind of um, extreme in my emotions sometimes, in a sense. And in terms of like being stressed or upset or being like overjoyed, and I still have that sort of fixation, but when I don't, the negatives don't weigh me down anymore in the same way they did. I'd say I feel freer mentally. It's just like a lower stress state. Physically, same sort of changes I saw when I started eating healthier, just way quicker, and stomach wise, a million times better. So my skin improved, but it was kind of just a gradual improvement. It's not perfect, but I hit a point where it just wasn't improving anymore prior. It improved, and then I was still at the same point getting a fair bit of acne, like for like about a year and a half. I was at that roadblock, and for the first time in a year and a half, it's getting better again. The last 5 months, and it's pretty steady and good. Um, my stomach, I did have some stomach issues originally transitioning because I didn't slowly incorporate it. I switched really quick, so I was eating way more fat than I had prior. But once I got past that, my stomach is a million times better. I ever since middle school, I had like pretty frequent sort of like stomach pains that would just seem to happen randomly, at least like once a week, where it'd almost be like I'm kind of like sick, but not obviously I didn't like feel sick in the normal sense. It would just be painful, and I'd have to be in like a fetal position until it got better. So that has been alleviated. Yeah, I would say alleviated. I'd say it's happened to me about maybe 1 or 2 times in the last 5 months. And even once I started eating healthier, I was still getting it pretty much weekly. That didn't really get much better ever. So a lot better. Not all the way there, but a lot better.
Great. I like how honest you are. Like you are just sharing what actually happens to you. It seems like you are not saying that, oh, everything got better.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I don't necessarily think it's like a miracle type of diet, but in a sense it is, I think, but it's not an overnight type of change, right? If you have issues, it takes time for things to resolve. Then it's not instant, but I mean, I think I've had heard of some people who had certain things and it was pretty instant, but it depends on what you have, right?
Right, right, right. I want to dive deeper into your stomach pain. Uh, Maybe you already said that, but I want to know more. So, when did you start to have that issue?
I remember I was probably in about sixth grade. Yeah, sixth grade. And coincidentally, not coincidentally, at the time I didn't realize why, but it lines up right when I started really eating worse. And it would just be the case like my stomach would feel like a little bloated, right? And then I think it was like pain from just like gas in the stomach, right? Um because I could feel it. Like once I would be in like a fetal position, things would move better and I could feel it inside me. I could feel it moving. And you can imagine like the type of things that would happen for it to get better. uh, in terms of bowel movements and farts, really. It's a little gross, but yeah. And it would happen to me pretty often. And I remember I really wasn't sure why, and I just thought it was normal. I was like, yeah, sometimes you don't feel good, just how life is.
Oh, so let me try to make sure. So, starting from when you were in sixth grade, you started to have this issue pretty frequently.
Yeah. So I was probably about
Okay.
12 when it happened.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Although, wait, I do have to
I
say,
suppose.
sorry, um, it wasn't as frequent at first. It was only every once in a while, and it picked up after like the main quarantine area where I really was eating bad, and I continued to eat bad after. But that was when I really, I think, messed myself up. Then it was frequent from then on.
I suppose you probably went to doctors to try to fix your stomach pain.
I never actually went like specifically for it, so I would just mention it to the doctors, and they would kind of try to figure out like what's the trigger for it, right? Eat healthier, that sort of thing. Uh, Even things like, okay, I take probiotics or eat fiber for better sort of bowel movements, right? At the time, I did notice that yogurt seemed to kind of be a trigger, and I don't think I was wrong there because I don't do well with dairy. Even like fermented dairy or raw dairy, I seem to not do well with. So, but even once I stopped eating as much yogurt, I still ate it, but even once I stopped eating it as much, it still would happen. And I will say, like, once I slowed down on that, it was less frequent throughout my middle school years. But once I went on the oral antibiotics for a while, it really came back worse than before, and it never fully went away. So I think that sort of brought it to a new level in terms of like the severity.
So, how was your life like having to deal with that kind of stomach pain frequently? How did you feel about
Um,
that?
well, I will say like my life growing up was good. So I had a good quality of life, but it was kind of that sort of thing. Like it was one of the main things that would annoy me. I remember I did gymnastics throughout like end of elementary school and beginning of middle school. And I remember I'd have these really long practices. That's just how it is, the sport is. And I had a lot of practices where I was sitting out. I'd go there, but then my stomach would start hurting because I'd eat before, and then I would sit out on the side for a while, and it became kind of weird because sometimes I got worried because I remember I was worried that my parents would think I'm faking it and like question whether I'm actually, because I would just say my stomach's upset, and then they'd be like, well, you don't have a fever, and I didn't really exactly know why this was happening at the time. I was just so, I wasn't in any of the spaces I am now, and I was just 12, 13, whatever, right? So I was worried that they would think I'm lying. Um, Luckily, my parents were always um, never really like questioned me about it. Although my dad sometimes would be like, "This isn't really normal." Like I'm a little worried, but eventually I stopped bringing it up as much, and I would kind of just ignore it a little bit, and then when I would get a chance, I if it was bad enough, I would still have to go into like a certain position, like a fetal position, to kind of make it resolve quicker.
Hmm. Well, this is pretty. How do you say this? I can, I can feel like I'm going through what you were going through. I guess it's pretty detailed.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really interesting because you had your worries. I guess it has to do with your mental state back then. If you have healthier mental health, you probably wouldn't have felt that negative, like worrying that your parents are going to think you are lying.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think it would have still crossed my mind, but I would like fixate it on it a little bit, and I'd remember I'd be at like practice, my stomach would be upset, and then I'd be worried. So some at first I would call them and be like, "Hey, I'm kind of upset." Like, and sometimes I'd get asked to get picked up, but eventually it got to the point where it was like common enough. I was like, I'm just gonna sit out for a little bit and try to get back to it. And I had such long practices that oftentimes eventually I would. So it would kind of be resolved in my mind, but it would leave me like a little uneasy.
When you started to try to eat less vegetables in your diet, did you had any? Did you have any worries?
Uh no, I didn't really have any worries. I was kind of already at that point where I was like, I don't think fiber is good anymore. And I never really had, outside of when I was little, or yeah, I was already at the point for a long time where I was like, vegetables aren't like a super nutritious. I'm not missing out on anything. At least anything that I could get from fruit, right? Because I was still a little bit worried about something like vitamin C, but then eventually, as you get into it, you realize there's all these people who have not had large amounts of vitamin C for years and years and years, and you realize that the actual requirement for vitamin C for a human to thrive is so low that you can get it from meat,
Mm.
especially raw meat or raw organs. Um, Vegetables. I had something I wanted to say. I don't think I'll. I don't think I'm gonna get it.
Okay. Yeah, I want to share my story with vegetables a little. So when I was growing up, I never liked vegetables, but I would always eat them. And yeah, I would just always think I need to eat vegetables. So whenever I'm at home or I buy food for myself, I would always try to incorporate vegetables. Yeah, like I didn't like vegetables, but every day I would try to at least have one of my meals to have vegetables. Yeah. And I always knew they didn't taste good, but I just thought that's what it is, I guess. And I always believe that without vegetables you will become constipated. Yeah. Yeah, I want you to give some advice to people like my past self, but I guess it's tricky. How can you approach this? They don't really they don't really question vegetables,
Yeah.
although they obviously don't like vegetables. Okay, okay. Let me say this. Uh, what would you say to people that regularly eat vegetables, but they don't like vegetables?
Okay, well, if they don't like it, I definitely try to appeal to that, right? So the bitter flavor when you eat something like vegetables, that is the anti-nutrients that you can taste. You can taste the nutrients in a food. That's obvious with something like iron, right? Um, Even when I have like something like raw meat, even though the butcher drains all the blood, you can still taste that irony taste after you wash it down with some water. Um, you taste the anti-nutrients in the vegetables, right? The taste alone is a sign that it shouldn't be consumed. Not only that, but you just have to think like every animal, right? If you try to kill it to eat it, it's going to run away from you. It's going to fight back. It's going to do something. And plants, over the millions of years of them being around, aren't they don't just sit there and do nothing, right? I mean, I think everyone knows that you can't eat most plants. We can only eat the ones that we've genetically hybridized and bred over generations of generations to become edible, right? And I think that's a sign that maybe you shouldn't be eating them. In their natural form, they weren't edible because they were toxic, literally toxic. You could die if you ate enough of it, and it wouldn't even be that much. And nowadays we can eat them, but have we actually removed all that, right? And that's what you're tasting.
Yeah, interesting. How do you think people are going to feel about your argument right there?
Well, I think it makes sense, but obviously you could try to refute it. Just because the vegetable was this way naturally, that doesn't mean we should eat it that way. That's an appeal to nature, right? But I think you have to look at it a little deeper than that, right? It's um it's not necessarily that just because it's that way naturally. It's because um well, it's hard to put this in words, but like it's not just because simply there's a certain way it is in nature that makes it bad per se nowadays, right? Um because they are better, but it's that they haven't it hasn't been completely resolved, right? Like we haven't removed all these things from them. There's still harmful compounds like lectins, oxalates that you find in them. Fiber, right? Um, the all the things that people don't like, whether they realize it or not, because fruits are also less fibrous today. Um, yeah, people could also point out that in moderation, for example, you get a little bit of those things, and you still need things like fiber from the fruits, like you said, your past self thought to not get constipated. To that, I would say, I wouldn't want to, if something's not only bad for you, but also makes something taste worse, I don't see why you'd want to consume that at all. And number two, even if it's for the fiber, I don't think fiber is beneficial. It adds, so people say it helps with bowel movements and whatnot, right? And there's a bunch of arguments, so I don't want to go on a rant, but let's just say for bowel movements specifically, right? Fiber adds bulk to stool and it's indigested. It's indigestible. It's it's not gonna make bowel movements any easier. It's not absorbable by the body. It's taxing in that sense. And people say it cleans you out because it's abrasive, which is also bad because it's abrasive to the lining of your gut. It's going to contribute to leaky gut. So you even see some of those controlled studies, and there's not a lot, but there is one at least that shows that people having IBS, bloody stools, constipation, high fiber diet, low fiber, and no fiber, as they keep on having less fiber, these issues are ameliorated. And not that everything can be controlled for 100%, but I think it. Yeah, I don't think it's beneficial. Anything that fiber does in terms of bowel movements, fat does better, in my opinion.
Nice. Yeah, I guess if my past self heard what you were saying, I think I would definitely at least look more into this topic, because for my past self, I didn't even know people will say vegetables are bad. Like, I never heard this side of the information. Yeah, but if I did hear that, I think I would do more research. It really depends on who you are, because for some people, maybe they are just going to think you are wrong, like I'm right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think for me at least, I would probably do more research. I would be somewhat curious. I think more people need to be curious.
Yeah, I agree. Having like that open mind is always important, right? I mean, you need to be willing to consider what other people say.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, so let's say somebody's listening to this and they are interested in going on a meat-based diet to improve their physical and mental health, but they are a little confused because some people are eating an animal-based diet, there are some carnivores, and there are even people that are eating raw meat. What kind of advice would you give them to help them start taking action instead of overthinking?
Okay, so I like this question. So me personally, right now, I'm eating raw carnivore. I haven't eaten any sort of fruits either recently. But it's not that I never plan to eat fruits again. In the summer, if I'm at a point I like in terms of my gut and feeling good in my skin, then I'll start eating some fruits again, minimally, but especially on the days where I get a lot of sunlight, I'm willing to do that. But I don't necessarily believe it's optimal. I'd say it's just like, what level do you need to go to get the results you want, right? Because fruit tastes good, and I don't believe it's that like deleterious to health in smaller quantities, in season as well. So if someone really is having issues, gut issues, skin issues, I do think carnivore is the way to go, and I think raw carnivore is even better. But if you can't get a good source of meat to eat raw carnivore, I would say then cook the meat. Not Don't overcook it. You lose out on too much, but cook it a bit, if you really are getting bad quality meat. I still think you're getting so much of the beneficial compounds, and meat itself, like you would still be avoiding all the anti-nutrients, and people seem to still do just fine and do very well reversing these sort of chronic health issues on a cooked carnivore diet. But I do think raw carnivore would be the way to go. eventually you could, like I said, like reintroduce like this sort of animal based way of eating some fruit and whatnot. But I do think someone like Paul Saladino is eating way too much fruit. I don't think that's you're just it's you're glycation, right? That's what everyone says, glycation, Randall cycle, whatever. Kind of like words that are used a lot, but yeah, like they're not wrong. Any sort of like blood sugar spike like that isn't gonna be good for you. It's just in what sort of environment can you mitigate it enough to make it more acceptable for longevity, and how much are you consuming. But that's another thing. Like it goes back to that in moderation thing. Some people have a hard time even consuming fruit in moderation. So for them, sometimes it's easier for them to go all the way carnivore and just stick to that. Um, Another point I'd like to bring up: a lot of people, I don't see it talked about a lot, but a lot of people go straight into the diet, kind of gung ho. They go straight from like a mixed type of diet, or maybe like somewhat animal based, but still like a lot of fruit or even a lot of vegetables. And they go straight to like a carnivore diet or raw carnivore. Either way, I would always recommend transitioning 6 to 8 weeks and kind of incorporating like in transitioning, because any sort of big dietary change, you're having a bunch of bacteria now thriving better, right? Growing better, and you have a lot of bacteria dying off in your stomach. You have to adjust a bit. I went straight into it, and for about a month, I was having some bowel movements that definitely weren't ideal, and I was having some stomach issues, like and stomach pains. Um, After a month, it resolved, but I think the healthier way to go about it and the more comfortable way to go about it is to transition. I don't think there's any reason to go straight into it.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Nice. Mm-hmm. What kind of role do you think cooking play in your life as a ramen eater?
Cooking. I kind of like to cook because it would be kind of fun sometimes, like with family. My girlfriend's a good cook. She's also a good baker, so she's sad that I don't eat her stuff she makes now. But my whole family still eats them, so there's someone to eat them besides me. Um, yeah, I think cooking can be nice because it can be somewhat social, and I think having family, friends, and that social sort of environment, it brings people together. Cooking, and it can, for a lot of people in that sense, be a net positive. But I will say, not cooking is a million times more convenient, and I still cook some of the meat I get. I don't always get the best quality meat just because of affordability. I'm really young, so I don't make a lot of money. But despite not cooking, I still enjoy social events. If like the earlier this week, it was my grandmother's birthday, and we went to a seafood place, and they didn't. It was like not super high end. It's just a place she likes, and everything's kind of breaded and served alongside like a bunch of sauce and pasta and whatnot. And I was like, I didn't get anything there, but I still enjoyed the environment of just sitting with my family. I just ate before. So I think a lot of times people want to stick to eating normally, even if it's just cooked carnivore, so they can eat out more. And it's not that I wouldn't eat a cooked steak eating out, but I do think people need to realize that it it's nice to eat with family, but even if you're not eating in that moment, just being with them and connecting and talking, you can still have great social interactions.
Yeah, I want to talk a bit about the benefits of eating raw meat. outside of just if we only talk about the convenience factor. So obviously you don't need to cook, and you just eat the meat as it is. And one thing I noticed is that when you cook your meat, uh, it can become more greasy. So the plate will become harder to clean. Like if you put a piece of raw meat on a plate and you eat a raw meat, to clean up that plate is pretty easy. Like it's not really going to be greasy. But if it's a piece of cooked steak, uh, the plate will be much more greasy, especially the pan that you use to cook the steak. Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you cook your food, you need to uh, spend time cooking and spend time cleaning up the dishes. But if you just eat raw, those factors are not in the conversation. Yeah. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's much more convenient if I'm going out somewhere. I don't have to prepare my food. I think a thing of something that people get annoyed with carnivore is that they always are constantly cooking tons of meat because they have to have some to bring out with them if they're working for their lunch, something like that, right? And it's just easier when you have the meat and all you have to do is take it out the fridge and you're on your way. But yeah, like touching back to the grease aspect, yeah, not only is it less convenient, but I think of every single time I cook meat like that, it something inside me, I'm like, this isn't right because I see that plate and I see all the fat leaving, and I'm like, if I'm most of the time I have ate that fat off the plate a little bit, like licked it up a little bit before, but most of the time I don't, and it makes me think about all the fat I'm losing out on, which is one of the most nutritious parts of the meat, right? So in its raw state, you get all the fat, all the muscle meat, all you're not losing anything. So that's another little bit that bugs me about cooking.
Mm-hmm. Nice, nice. Do you have any health goals right now? Because I think you mentioned that your skin is still not where you want it to be, right?
Yeah. I guess that is my main health goal right now. Overall, like how I feel is much better. So I already feel a lot better, which is nice, and um I could touch upon like, obviously I want to feel even better and improve that sort of thing, but I'm very happy with what I'm at outside of my skin. Or I'd say I'm very happy relative to where I was, but I want my skin to be flawless in the sense that there's not a single pimple on it, right? That would be my ideal. So I still get like I have acne right here on my face, some right here. It's much more minimal. I used to get like big cystic acne that would be really deep and painful. It's not painful anymore, which is really nice, but it's just not to the point where I'd want it to be. So my skin is the main goal. And I also have some skin texture from acne. Luckily, I don't know why. Like my acne was very bad for a long time, but I seem to get off better than most people in my boat for whatever reason. But so I'm thankful for that. But yeah, definitely my skin.
Awesome. Shit, forgot my question. I think I have a good question. Let me see. Oh yeah, I want to say that I think your transformation is pretty impressive for sure. Like your acne was a lot,
Oh,
like
thank
all
you.
over
Yeah,
your face, from what I can see.
yeah, it was pretty extreme, and those, in my opinion, those videos don't really like capture how bad it was. I never took, I never thought I'd be doing this, so I would avoid taking pictures at its worst. So I don't even necessarily have, like I have pictures from the time period where it was at its worst, but I don't have those days where or weeks, like a week or so where it'd be really flaring up, and maybe I'd like after wrestling or something, it had gotten rubbed and I was really red and inflamed. Yeah, but it has gotten a lot better.
I like how you answered the question because I guess you kind of regret not having taken more pictures, right? I guess.
Yeah, it's funny. I never thought. I guess I was always open to the idea of like posting on social media. I never really posted that much historically, but I never thought I'd have a like a platform about this specifically.
I can relate to your story. I think I used to be pretty against taking pictures. I remember when I went out with my family and they want to take pictures, I would always feel very like resistant. Yeah, just didn't feel very confident. I worry about how other people are going to think. Like I kind of feel like it's embarrassing to be taking pictures because other people will think, will laugh at me or something. Just had more negative thoughts, and obviously I didn't really like how I looked. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't even think I look good right now, but I just feel better. Like I'm more content. Yeah, so I definitely changed in terms of this. Like right now, uh, maybe I'm going to be the person that wants to take pictures with my friends and family. And if my family member wants to take pictures, I'm going to be pretty down. I'm not going to be resistant.
Yeah, and I think that sort of thing, like I can relate to that change. I think the aspect of like mental changes on this sort of diet is underspoken.
Mm, yeah, but I think it's interesting that a lot of people that are eating a modern diet, they don't seem to have my kind of mental health issues in the past. They are just pretty outgoing, happy, at least on the surface.
Yeah,
they are more social than me.
I was never a very like social person. I can kind of touch upon another mental difference. And part of it was just me getting myself out there, but in the past, like I wouldn't say it's all my diet, but I would say it's just part of I guess getting more mentally healthy. In the past, like I would overanalyze things that I did, so I try to get into the center of the frame. Um, if I let's say like talk to someone who I didn't know very well, I would if I said something that like maybe I thought sounded dumb or something like that, it would kind of almost replay in my head. I'd be like thinking about it over and over again. I was like, oh, why did I say that? Do they think I this sound this way or this and that? And I'd almost hear myself over and over again, and then have these thoughts over and over again, and just other things kind of like that. But now I don't have that issue anymore. And I had that for a long time. Even once I became more social, like in high school, going into high school, in my later years, it never really fully went away. But yeah, it just doesn't happen anymore.
Did you mean after a social interaction, you are going to think back about it very much, or it's like during the interaction?
Um, it could be during the interaction if it happens. Like if it's a longer interaction, I might be. It almost like bring me out of the interaction because I'd be thinking about it. But especially after, like if it was a brief interaction, and I say something, and I'm like, does that sound dumb? And I didn't get to see like if especially if it was brief and I didn't get to see the way they reacted about it. It's the type of thing. I would probably be the type of thing like whatever I said. It would be the type of thing that the other person would forget within maybe like a minute, right? It's so minute, but I would obsess over it. Uh, yeah, for no reason.
Wow,
It would,
wow,
yeah.
interesting, interesting. Okay, yeah, I thought of a little story. I can also share this. Um, so I remember when I was in college, one time I was in my campus, and my friends saw me. Like they were a little far from me, but they saw me, and then one of them just like say hi to me, and then I just like look at him, and I didn't uh, respond back at all. I guess I was like feeling too shy or something. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't want to react it that way, but I still did that because of my mental state or whatever. I wasn't like cognitively working very well. So actually that friend was kind of angry because he said hi to me, but I didn't respond. So he thought
Yeah.
I was weird, like something was wrong about me. But I kind of felt innocent, I guess, because I was like, I'm actually embarrassed or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I've had moments like that too in the past. Especially if I just like didn't know someone super well or had been a while since I last talked to them, I'd feel like a little. There'd be like enough nervousness where I might have not given the most like warm like response. Not in a mean way, but just not in a like overtly friendly way.
Mm-hmm. Nice, nice. Yeah, but I think um, there is still a lot of room for improvement for me. Like right now, I eat a better diet and my mental state is better. But in terms of like socializing and stuff, there are still a lot of things to learn. I think if I become even more healthy, that I will become more better at socializing. Like how healthy you are will kind of determine how good you are at socializing, in my opinion. But obviously, practicing will definitely also help.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are both factors, and I've thought about that too. I think like as you become healthier, like biochemically, you're just gonna. I think the main thing that changes as you become healthier is the nervousness. That's what I've noticed. I used to feel more nervous to talk to people, but now it's gone away. I feel a lot more like open to conversation with people, and it feels much. It's more fun because you're just not like you don't have that nervous feeling in the back of your head.
Nice, nice. mm, okay, I want to challenge myself to like share a little embarrassing story. Yeah, I think maybe fuck. But I just want to point out that I'm not trying to talk too much, but I just think this can be relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
So fuck. uh, but uh, right now I'm pretty much doing content full time, and I'm not making a lot of money, and this can make me feel kind of insecure. So sometimes when I'm like interacting with people, I kind of like even right now I'm going to like overthink. Yeah, I worry about them. Like this is pretty stupid, but recently if I go out during weekdays, I'm going to kind of worry that they think I'm jobless or something. I think it's not healthy. Like I'm overthinking too much. Yeah, I think it has to do with um, how some people around me uh, act because I can tell that, for example, when I'm hanging out with my cousin, I can tell that he's going to be analyzing people that go out on weekdays. He is going to feel like, why don't these people need to work? Yeah, so that kind of affects how I feel about how other people are going to think. Yeah, but this is, how do I say this? Like, I think it's not healthy. Like, um, I should be able to feel happy being in my state. I should be feel good being broke because it's not really a big deal, to be honest. Yeah, but it's a challenge. It's challenging to uh, kind of combat this, I guess, because of like social conditioning or something. You feel a strong pressure. Yeah, although I think I have my right to do what I want. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, as a person that is eating a pretty good diet right now, I still have struggles in terms of like I guess mental health. Like life is challenging, for sure.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with you. I know like especially in like Chinese culture, there's a big emphasis on status and money, um, and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, I feel a similar way sometimes. I don't have a lot of pressure on me right now. I um I haven't even graduated high school yet. This is my final year of high school right now. So obviously I'm so young that there's not a lot of pressure to make money. And then since I've been doing landscaping for enough years, I actually have a pretty decent amount of people, so I make more money than most of my friends. Nothing crazy, but there's not a lot of pressure. But I understand where you're coming from. I just think there is a constant pressure from like society to work and work and work. But I used to be really focused on money, and now I feel more disconnected. It's nice to have, right? Because I think about it as like you can afford better food, you can live in a better area, better environment, right? But it's definitely not the end all be all. There's way a million more important things in life, and at the end of the day, it's kind of made up, you know. If you, it's not necessarily it's not really real. So I remember I used to stress about how am I going to make a lot of money in the future because I was so before diet I used to be pretty focused on like hyper fixated on like making a lot of money and that sort of thing. But now I've relaxed a lot more. I just want to have enough money to live somewhere nice with a nice family and everyone eating well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess I don't really like the fact that I need to have money to feel confident, I guess. I want to be
Yeah,
able to fix this, to be honest. But I feel like it's pretty hard. I feel like mm, this is a challenge for a lot of modern people.
I
Because
agree.
to be honest, like I right now I'm pretty abundant. Like I'm not. How do you say this? I'm definitely going to. Definitely not going to not have money living in this day and age. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I just feel like I need to make a certain amount of money to feel confident. But that's not where I should be because like it's similar to relationships. Like you it's better that you are able to be happy being single rather than you need a girlfriend to feel good.
hmm,
Yeah, but yeah, I just want to talk about this a little. Yeah,
yeah.
like
I think like the whole money thing. It's like if you're too obsessed over it, like no matter how much you have, you're always gonna want more. So you have to find like that point with yourself where you realize like I think it's better to focus on other things. I I
mm,
used to like I said used to be really focused on money and right now I'm focused on my health, but I'll get to the point in terms of my health where I feel good and I'll keep up what I'm doing, but then at like from there I'll need a focus right in my life and that will be for me my finding a partner and having kids. I think that's kind of the end all be all, right? Family. That's it. Always goes back to family.
mhm. Nice, nice. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I wish I was more invincible because sometimes, like, uh, for example, if people disrespect me in real life, for example, uh, let's say my mom doesn't talk to me in a very friendly way, I'm going to feel affected. Yeah, but I want to be the kind of person that doesn't really give a f about what other people say. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think I'm going to be able to reach that point when I become healthier. But at least right now, I'm still a human, I guess.
Yeah, I understand. It's
I
hard.
just want to highlight. Yeah, I just want to highlight how healthy you are can affect how resilient you are in terms of like um, feeling good. I guess like if you are healthier, you are able to feel good despite your circumstances. In my opinion, but right now
Yeah,
I'm not that healthy.
yeah, I agree. I definitely think that adds to like it changes your mental state. It can be hard sometimes though. Like with if you have people that are close to you who say it's really easy for me to brush off something someone I'm not close with or someone I don't know says. It doesn't do a thing, but if it's someone like a family member, it's just harder to do that because it's someone you care about.
Ah, sorry, bro. For some reason, I was gone. I guess you were saying something. I mentioned that the more healthy you become, you are going to become more resilient. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just saying but right before you mentioned that, like when you have a family member, like I used your mom as an example. I was just saying like when they say something, it's harder to brush it off because it's someone you care about that's closer relative to a random person. But yeah, I absolutely agree with the resilience point. Um, I don't think you think like the modern person, it's more than just what we're used to, but I think it's our not just like the fact that we're used to living in this modern way, but you have to think that we're so different mentally just based on more of like a physical standpoint, what we put into our body and our environment and how much it negatively affects our minds that we've lost so much resilience, I think, compared to our natural way of living, which would have required more resilience. Considering I do think it would have been harder um, to live like we did, let's say, 10,000 years ago, hunter gatherer.
Are you saying that humans from the past are tougher mentally because of their like their lifestyle?
Yeah, and the way I said it before was wordy, so I'm gonna try to rephrase it. I think we weren't just tougher in the past because we were used to a tougher environment, but I think it's the fact that we ate so much differently and that our environment was so different in terms of like things like sun exposure that we were so much healthier outside of course, like, you could die from a bunch of other things. But overall, in terms of like what we were eating and stuff, I think that made such a big difference in terms of our resilience and toughness.
Nice, nice. I like this message. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
great. Let me see.
Just letting you know, I can't stay on for too much longer. I have to get to bed soon.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you for staying. Right for now.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll let you choose the topic. Um, do you want to talk about dating or your family or some things about teeth health?
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna say dating and then teeth health
Okay, good, 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 good. Nice, nice.
because I think we've touched upon family enough.
Oh, okay, sounds great. Nice, nice. Oh, okay, great. Uh, did you did you start to see more success in dating after you became healthier?
Yeah. Um, Once I started prioritizing healthy eating and my diet changed. I mean, I ended up looking better. Um, I started to kind of it felt like I got back on the path where my young development was good, and I felt like I was starting to get back on track. And the main difference I noticed is that before I'd never had a too much of a negative response to girls because I think in my development, like I was good enough to at least, even if I did look unhealthy because of like skin issues and whatnot, bad haircut as well, all these sort of things, like my face wasn't necessarily like weird looking or anything. But what changed is that I could tell girls would get nervous when talking to me, and that they would like stumble over their words, for example, even like kind of get flustered. I remember at a restaurant, I asked a girl for her number and or her Snapchat, right? Her Snapchat username or whatever. And as she was kind of talking to me, she would look away and kind of put her hands near her face because she was I guess she was getting a little embarrassed. She was just nervous. Um, so that's kind of the difference I noticed. It was just a like I never necessarily got like a poor response, but the response got a lot better.
Wow, this is pretty fascinating. I shouldn't say this, so apparently I don't. Yeah, I'm just a normal guy. But let's see. Yeah, I guess that's pretty interesting because that's kind of like some biological signals to help guys feel more confident, right? Because if you can tell that the girl you are talking with are being shy, you can kind of feel more attracted and more confident.
Yeah, exactly. Like that sort of flustered, sort of.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is being shy is actually a good thing because I feel like people are kind of afraid of being shy when they are like talking with people they like. But if you are being okay with being shy, maybe that can probably make you more attractive because the person you are talking with will know that, oh, you like them and find you more likable.
Yeah, I think it's almost there's like a difference between it just being anyone and you can't talk to people, and then right it's someone like that. But especially for a girl, I think as a guy you want to exude more confidence, but especially for like a girl, um, it girls like to be indirect, right? They're not gonna ask you out, but they like to show signs, and that makes it pretty obvious.
Nice, nice. So what you were talking about was more about the fact that your appearance improved, so people feel more attracted to you. Do you think the fact that your mental health improved help with dating?
Yeah, I mean, because historically, when I used to kind of obsess over and nitpick every word I said, it was worse with girls, obviously, right? I think it's just naturally you're going to be more shy around girls, and that just made it even worse. So compared to talking with guys, so once I got over that, talking to girls became a lot easier. Um, Not that I couldn't ever do it, I guess, right? But I was like around freshman year at one of my worst points in terms of health. I remember my first girlfriend, like our first couple of dates, I was very awkward. I was unbelievably awkward. I can't name like it was a little too long ago to name like a specific example, but I do know that I was extremely awkward.
Okay. Nice, nice. Yeah, what helped me in terms of dating after I changed my diet? A big thing was that I started to be able to feel good being single. Like I used to feel always like very desperate, really want to have a girlfriend. Without a girlfriend, I just felt very like lonely and sad. Yeah, sometimes I couldn't even concentrate because the sadness is too strong. But after I changed my diet, I noticed that I started to be able to feel pretty great. I started to be able to go out alone without worrying about what other people are going to think. Yeah, so I think this is some pretty great benefit, and that actually helped with me interacting with girls So um, I started to need girls less, but I started to become better at attracting girls, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah. I think that
pretty valuable because
yeah, that definitely that makes sense. I think in general, just like once you like improving your mental health with this diet, I find that I just feel more content all around. Um, I feel more content financially. I feel more content in my relationship than I did before. It it just makes you kind of it almost makes you slow down a little bit um, and just appreciate more. But I think that it really just puts you in such a better headspace overall once you and that just comes along with healthy body, healthy mind. I mean, the mind's part of the body, obviously. You know.
great, great. I remember I used to watch a lot of red pill videos, and I try to like know how to interact with girls, like how long to wait before I send a message, or what to tell her. Or I think I would like act like I didn't care about the girl to appear more attractive. But I in deep down I really cared. I really want them to reply to me fast, or I really want to reply back to them fast. Yeah, but I think you shouldn't pretend to be someone else. It's better to just be yourself. And if the girl doesn't vibe with your behavior, you just let them go. You should be able to be fine with like not having this girl in your life. I guess be able to walk away. It's pretty important. Yeah, like red pillars will always tell you to like do these certain things, and I guess that's true. But you should be able to do those naturally instead of like pretend to act those certain ways. Yeah, I just think it's relevant, so I want to throw this out there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because I remember I would, with my first girlfriend, I would like try to wait to respond or not come across too strong, right? And I would, because I also like consumed things like that, and I thought that was the way to go. But then I found that that only made her dislike me more and get upset with me, and I think yeah, I just don't think that's the right way to go. I think if a girl really likes you, when you show interest back and you give her love, I think that's good. I think they enjoy that, and it's important, right?
Awesome, awesome. What kind of pill is this? Is this blue pill?
It sounds, I guess so, right? It kind of sounds like a blue pill thing, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
It's not necessarily wrong.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, love pill.
Nice, nice. Nice, nice. Awesome. Because people will use the word blue pill in a like negative way, I guess. But I agree with you.
Yeah,
Repeal repeal concept is like trying too hard.
yeah, I agree.
Trying to
It's
be trying to be too manipulative.
yeah, I agree, and it's like I just wouldn't want to. It's like too much overthinking. I like it when I like it when the relationship just feels natural, right? You say what you want to say, you express how you actually feel, and you just let things kind of flow.
Nice,
I
nice.
don't want to like wait to respond and that sort of thing.
Great, great. For sure, for sure. I want to have you draw some value. So let me see. Um, yeah, I can just use my past self as an example. What kind of advice would you give someone that's let me see how I can phrase it. Hmm. What kind of advice would you give single guys that really want to get a girlfriend?
Okay, so first, I guess I would have to say you have to focus on yourself first, and it's not about this sort of red pill sort of thing. That sounds like a very like red pill type of thing, but you want to get healthy first, because that's like we were talking about. It's simple, right? Like it's obvious. Not to like say something so obvious, but right, like you want to be in that better headspace and look better as well, which will come from health. Um, the next thing, because this is a little hard because it depends on like situation to situation, right? But I think the next thing is you need to. I know some people who have issues meeting girls because they've already graduated, for example, and they're in a particular area of schooling, let's say, where there's not a lot of girls. I have a guy who already, I know, I have a friend who already graduated, and he's becoming a welding apprentice, and his class has barely any girls in it, and most of them are way older than him, so he wouldn't date them. And you need to put yourself in the sort of space where you're going to meet, just interact with girls, right? That's also obviously important. And then another thing, and I also know some guys like this. This is something that's very important. So if you need to find your looks match, right? You have to. I mean, depending on what you look like, you can't attract everyone, right? And I know some guys who have really high standards but don't take care of themselves at all, and eat very bad and are overweight, and they have very high standards, and if they just brought their standards down a tiny bit, not that the girl has to even look bad, but if they got healthy and were lower body fat, got healthy, they'd have better skin, just those types of things, and slightly lowered their standards, they could get get in a loving relationship, get in a great relationship, but they're stubborn. So yeah, this is basic stuff. I mean, I wouldn't say this isn't my area of like expertise.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, I feel like if you have experienced becoming healthier by changing your diet, you have some sort of authority to talk about this, in my opinion, because it definitely helps with like socializing and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like your advice right there. I like how you relate this back to health. Awesome, because I didn't make that very clear in my question. Sometimes it's hard to make my question super detailed, I guess.
Yeah.
But let me see. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it with the dating part. So when it comes to
Yeah.
teeth, do you still have all your teeth?
Yeah. I have had some wisdom teeth removed, but all my like main teeth, yeah. I've had
Nice.
2 wisdom teeth removed.
Are they on the same like plane?
It's my bottom 2 they removed.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, kind of interesting.
When did you get them removed?
It must have been about a year ago, and I kind of already knew about this sort of like about how it could impact like bone reabsorption, all these sort of things. So I was pretty nervous going into it, but they just weren't coming in right. And I can get into why I think that happened, but I can touch upon that in a different question because it's kind of long-winded. But yeah, I have my 2 bottom wisdom teeth removed.
I didn't catch you quite clearly, but did you mean it's a long story as to why you wanted to get them removed?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay, okay. Sounds great. But how do you feel about that now? Do you regret making this decision?
Well, I mean, I wish it didn't happen, but I didn't exactly decide. It was kind of affecting the alignment of my other teeth. I didn't have space in my mouth. But I do think if I went back about 10 years, it could have been avoided.
Yeah, I can understand that. Nice. Okay. Do you have any advice to people that are having crooked teeth?
Well, I'd say if you're young and your teeth are coming in, your adult teeth, and I guess this is where I can touch upon, I think, what happened to me. So, my top teeth came in first. I had braces, but my top teeth were always straight. My bottom teeth, like around here, were crooked. They came in like overlapping, and those were the ones that came in later. Oddly, well, I can't 100% say I'm sure why, but I did notice that once again, it seems like everything started to go wrong with me when I ate really bad. Because when I was eating well as a kid and I lost my teeth pretty late. I only had lost maybe six teeth by maybe a bit more, but at some point in 6th grade is when I lost a lot of my teeth. So my baby teeth came out pretty late. That's when I lost a lot of my like towards like the here and at the bottom. Before that, like my front ones happened earlier, but once that also was when my diet was pretty bad, and the bottom ones happened after, and those weren't straight, and my top teeth came in perfectly fine, and well, they didn't have to remove. They had to remove my bottom wisdom teeth, so clearly my lower jaw was more crowded, but I'm not 100% sure why. So I guess my advice, I have to get back to that question. My advice would be focus on what you're eating if you're young, but if you have crooked teeth, there are some mouth guards I've seen that claim to be able to help with alignment that you can just put in at night. I don't know if they really do anything though. You'd probably have to get some sort of orthodontics. But keep it in mind with your kids, right? Because you can save your kids from orthodontics, and orthodontics is expensive, so just another little bonus.
Yeah, that's some important message for sure. More people need to be aware of this. Like, it's pretty preventable, I guess. And it's like, how do you say it? It's kind of like a no-brainer. Like you will not want your children to have developmental issue and have you need to like cost extra money, and then there
Yeah.
are going to be some downstream problems. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I was okay, great. Yeah, I was talking with Jaw Hacks a while ago, if you know who that is, and
Yeah.
he said that mainstream treatments is going to kind of make your mouth space more little, like kind of shrink your jaw space. Yeah, yeah. Like in order to make your teeth look straight, they need to pull things back, and that can create even more health issues. So it's kind of like you are spending money to give yourself more problems, but this didn't even need to happen in the first place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. I know people, like I think in my case, nothing got pulled back. It's just like a little bit of rearrangement because mine wasn't that extreme. But some people, their mouth is so cramped that they'll pull teeth around here and then bring it back a little bit too, just because not maybe not the full tooth length back, but a bit because they create that space by pulling teeth. I know I have a good friend who had teeth removed in that way, and he seems to be doing fine now. But in the long term, a lot of people get issues with that, sleep apnea especially. So that's not great. Real quick, going back to the other
Mm-hmm.
question, the development part. Um, yeah, I think that's obvious how much diet affects teeth. I mean, you see the. I just want to touch upon this experiments or what Weston A. Price observed. They'd have like tribes in more isolated parts of the world, and when they ate their traditional diet, they malocclusion was so rare they all had straight teeth. It was only once that they ate the diet of the I guess the Western man, as is what he said, but the the diet of the developed world, heavy in grains, did their teeth begin to get worse and worse by a big margin. Instantly, much more crooked, overlapping teeth, not enough space, and that was within one generation. Some people talk about how now our teeth are too small, are too big because our jaws have shrunk, and I think that's part of it. But I do think it is reversible within a generation or two if you do the right things for your children and your grandchildren. You can really save them.
Yeah, I think the compound effect can be pretty significant because, like, every day you are either um, continuously eating worse or you are continuously eating better, and this can build up as time goes on.
Yeah,
The difference can be pretty drastic.
yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
nice, nice. Okay, I'll try to wrap it up quicker. You know what? Because like I think everything is related to health, so there are a lot of things I can talk about. Like for example,
Yeah,
like I said, family, dating, and even like make how to career stuff like this. Yeah, teeth, skin, blah blah blah. Yeah, so many
yeah,
topics.
hair.
So you used to struggle with a full face of acne. If you could go back in time and give your past self some advice, what would you tell him?
I think about this a lot because I feel like I wasted time some of the ways I was eating. Not it wasn't a complete waste because it did get better, but I really wish I could started eating the way I did 5 months ago, 2 years ago. Ideally, I'd go back to before it ever got bad. But let's say like freshman year at its worst, if I could sum it up pretty quickly, I would say I think the one piece of advice that I just it took a long time to get because it's so against the mainstream advice would be like let's say I had just a couple seconds, stop eating so much plants and stop eating so much fiber. Like very simple. Actually, I'd say cut it out. I'd say go ahead and go carnivore. I always thought of carnivore as like the last resort for me because I was like I didn't see it as necessarily like the best diet. Um so I was real adverse to it, but like knowing what I know now, I wish I made that jump way sooner. So it
Mm.
took me a long time to get there, and I I could have been at a really good point by now.
Wow, awesome, awesome. Yeah, I guess the first time I came across carnivore in my life, I also didn't take it seriously. I just thought, like, I wasn't very curious. I just think you'll become constipated. And then, like, 2 years later, that's when I started to have, like, eye issues that prompted me to, like, research about diet. And then I eventually found carnivore and tried it. Yeah, but I also could have gone carnivore sooner. Yeah. Mm, let's see. I think something I want to say. Oh, do you think your past self would have listened to you if you told him to go carnivore?
Well, here's what I'll say: like if I could actually time travel, then I think my past self would, because I trust myself in that sense, right? But take away it being me, someone told me that, no, yeah, I would have never listened. I I thought carnivore was like the last resort elimination diet, and I actually wanted to make a TikTok about this because I don't view carnivore as so much of a elimination diet anymore, because obviously it is. You cut out so much that could be causing issues for you, but it's also a additive diet in a sense, because you which is different than how I used to view it. You gain so much as well. You get so much nutritionally, right? Not only do you cut out a lot of bad things, but you add so much good in that could help your skin a lot more. Vitamin A, B vitamins, especially red meat, you get way more zinc, which is great for your skin. And these are just things I didn't really know back then. And um, I wish I would have listened to people on that side more. Yeah.
I guess I'll just give you the last question for this interview. So, Luke,
hmm
what do you wish more people in the world could know?
I wish more people in the world would realize that we kind of have things backwards right now when it comes to the way we eat. And actually, even more so than that, I want people to realize that it matters a lot more than they think, especially young people. I think old people start to care because I think you care more about it as you have more issues, right? The people in this space are always people who have had health issues in the past. Almost always are people who have had health issues, and they get desperate enough to try it, and then they realize that maybe this is the right way to go. And I think people just need to realize like the difference that eating right can make in your life is so extreme. That raw carnivore can make in your life is so extreme. Not just outside of health, but every single aspect and how important it is. Yeah. And how backwards that mainstream health advice is, that it completely opposite recommends the opposite thing of at least what I believe is the true human diet, true best diet for humans. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Um, really quickly, do
Mhm.
you have any people around you that eat a similar diet?
I do have one friend, and when I first started eating better, he kind of followed suit, and he hasn't gone as far as me now, but he does eat raw meat. He's open to the idea, but he's not as strict as I am. Like
Oh,
I'm fully raw carnivore right now, and like I said, I'd be willing to reintroduce some more fruit in the summer, and minimally if I'm at that point. If not next summer, then I'd wait longer, right? But he still is like kind of more whole foods. He eats certain vegetables like sweet potatoes right now, but he doesn't eat any like kale, spinach, broccoli, right? He doesn't like them anyway. And he still eats a lot more fruit than me, even in the winter. He's not as concerned about it as I am, and he has less
hmm,
problems historically, so I understand why. But he
hmm.
eats similarly. He's kind of followed suit and learned as I learned, and kind of picked up on what I'm doing. So it's nice to have someone you can kind of talk to it about more so.
Great, great. I think you are being a good example because you definitely had a pretty noticeable transformation. So I hope people
Yeah,
can,
thank you.
how do you say this? Like, um, think about this. Think about why you are different.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, guys, this has been your guest, Luke at Solar Vigor. Is that correct?
yeah, solar vigor.
A vigor. Fuck. Yeah, but I'll make
All
sure
good.
to put your socials down in the description. And
Yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
hope you enjoyed this interview. Thank you for coming on, Luke. We could have gone on
Thank you.
for even longer.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Nice. Yeah, so for those that are still listening, thank you for being here. I hope you found some value from Luke's story and advice. I think he dropped some pretty nice suggestions, recommendations here. Yeah, so this is a little cringe. Let's try to become healthier and nicer for ourselves and the people around us, all right? So, peace out.
Good message.
Nice, nice. I'll stop recording.